10 key takeaways from the Pi Live Asia Pacific, Future of International Education in Australia. Imagine the future of Australia's international education sector as a complex tapestry, woven with threads of policy, priorities, and potential. Last week's Policy Update, the Next Steps for Australia session at the PIE Live Asia Pacific Conference on the Gold Coast offered a candid glimpse into this intricate landscape. Key leaders, including Assistant Minister for International Education, Julian Hill, provided insights that are crucial for understanding the path ahead. But here's where it gets controversial. Does this policy update truly offer anything new, or is it more of the same? Let's dive into the 10 key takeaways that emerged from this session. 1. Political stability, a double-edged sword. The sector is breathing a sigh of relief with Julian Hill as the Assistant Minister for International Education. Phil Honeywood from the International Education Association of Australia, IEAA, described Hill as a champion of education with direct industry experience. This continuity, along with Jason Clare remaining as Minister for Education, is seen as a stable foundation. However, this stability exists within a tense political dynamic. Pro-education voices must advocate strongly against more security-focused agendas within the government. This stability is a relief, but it's not a panacea. It's a double-edged sword that requires constant vigilance and advocacy. 2. Sustainable growth. And this is the part most people miss. Sustainable growth isn't just about quantity. It's about quality and integrity. 3. Diversification, a national priority. The government is actively looking to deconcentrate the international student population from major eastern cities. Assistant Minister Hill explicitly prioritized encouraging study in regional areas and improving access for students from Southeast Asia. This aligns with broader geopolitical and economic strategies, signaling that future policy will likely include incentives or mechanisms to drive this diversification. This shift could have significant implications for regional economies and the international student experience. 4. The housing crisis, an education crisis. For the first time, a senior government minister has explicitly linked future growth in international education to the availability of new housing. This is a significant policy shift. The government recognizes that social license for the sector is intrinsically tied to its impact on domestic issues like housing affordability and availability. We can expect future provider approvals or growth corridors to be scrutinized through a housing lens. This raises the question, how will this impact the availability and affordability of housing for both international students and local residents? 5. The battle for a fair share. Continues, Phil Honeywood's comments underscored the ongoing tension within the sector. While universities are a cornerstone, he stressed the need to ensure that policy doesn't kill off the crucial standalone English language sector or disadvantage private and vocational providers. Felix Peary of the Independent Tertiary Education Council Australia, ITECA, articulated the pain these providers have felt due to visa processing challenges. The debate is not just with the government, but within the industry itself. This raises the question, how can we ensure a fair share for all providers in the international education sector? 6. Quality providers welcome the integrity push. While acknowledging recent difficulties, independent providers see the integrity crackdown as a necessary evil. Felix Peary of ITECA underscored this by stating, "Our members have been feeling the pain of processing delays, but we understand the integrity imperative." Quality independent providers are the government's partners in this, not adversaries. A system that roots out non-genuine actors ultimately protects the reputation and investment of every legitimate student and institution in this country. This raises the question, how can we balance the need for integrity with the challenges faced by quality providers? 7. Universities, the bedrock of the entire ecosystem. Luke Sheehy, CEO of Universities Australia, made a crucial point about the foundational role of universities. He argued that policy must look beyond simple enrollment numbers. While we navigate the path to sustainable numbers, it's critical to remember that international students are integral to the very fabric of our universities, Sheehy noted. They fund world-class research and subsidize places for domestic students, ensuring our institutions remain globally competitive and serve their communities. It's an ecosystem, and policy must reflect that interconnectedness. This raises the question, how can we ensure that universities continue to thrive in this ecosystem? 8. State governments, focused on the on-the-ground experience. The federal government may set immigration policy, but the states are at the coalface of the student experience. Simone Fuller, Executive Director International for Queensland's Department of Education, highlighted this state-level responsibility from a state perspective. Our focus is laser-sharp on the entire student journey, she explained. A quality education is paramount, but it must be matched by a safe, welcoming community and access to quality accommodation and support services. Queensland's reputation depends on us delivering that exceptional experience. This raises the question, how can state governments ensure a seamless and positive experience for international students? 9. Australia's challenges are not unique. Putting the local situation into perspective, host Amy Baker, CEO of the PA, drew parallels with other major study destinations. It's important to see these policy shifts in a global context, Baker observed. What we heard today echoes conversations happening in Canada and the UK. Every major destination market is grappling with the nexus of immigration, housing, and public sentiment. The key question for Australia is whether it can navigate these challenges in a way that provides clarity and stability, something that both students and global partners are desperately seeking right now. This raises the question, how can Australia learn from other countries to navigate these challenges effectively? 10. The link to national skills needs will become more formal. Finally, a recurring theme was the connection between international education and Australia's workforce. The Assistant Minister mentioned it, and it was implicit in the discussion of value. The key takeaway is that this link will likely become a more formal policy driver. We should anticipate future frameworks that more explicitly channel students into courses aligned with the national skills agenda, moving it from a passive benefit to a primary objective of the international education program. This raises the question, how can we ensure that international education aligns with national skills needs while still providing a valuable educational experience for students? Gordon Scott is Managing Director of employability skills training provider Successful Graduate. Successful Graduate delivers client-branded student preparation and employability training platforms, developing academic and job skills at scale across the entire student lifecycle. Successful Graduate won the 2023 PIEN Award for Digital Innovation of the Year, Student Recruitment. Gordon launched the company in 2014, dedicated to improving the employability of international students. Gordon is a senior fellow of the IEAA and served for 2 years as a board member. He is a past board member of the Queensland International Education and Training Advisory Council. So, what do you think? Do these takeaways paint a clear picture of the future of Australia's international education sector? Or are there still too many unknowns? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Australia raises international student cap to 295,000. What this means? Australia is strategically expanding its international student intake cap to 295,000 by 2026. But this change comes with new restrictions and considerations that might surprise many. While the increase suggests growth, it's important to note that the new figure still sits 8% below the peak levels recorded right after the pandemic, implying some cautious steps are still in play. But here's where it gets interesting. From next year, students transitioning directly from Australian high schools to university or TAFE, or from affiliated pathway providers, will no longer be counted under the national planning limits. This adjustment aims to encourage more seamless pathways for students into higher education without worrying about strict caps. The national planning level, which controls how many international students various institutions can enroll annually, is currently set at 270,000. With the upcoming increase to 295,000, the government hopes to strike a balance between growth and sustainability. Public universities, for example, can currently admit up to 145,000 new international students each year, while vocational education providers, VET, face a 95,000 cap, and private universities are limited to 30,000. These individual quotas help manage the sector's capacity and ensure quality. Education Minister Jason Clare emphasized that international education isn't just a significant revenue stream for Australia, but also a vital avenue for fostering international friendships. He pointed out that growth should support not only economic interests, but also the well-being of students and the national good. The new planning level aims to give institutions clear guidance to continue providing high-quality education, while also aligning with national priorities. In practical terms, all public universities will retain their current enrollment quotas for next year, but they now have the option to apply for higher limits if they demonstrate increased engagement with Southeast Asia, one of Australia's strategic focus regions, as well as sufficient student housing for both international and domestic students. This focus on Southeast Asia is rooted in Australia's broader Southeast Asia economic strategy to 2040, which aims to deepen cooperation in education, agriculture, and resources, an effort to build stronger ties in a rapidly changing regional landscape. Additionally, students from key international cohorts, such as those from Pacific nations, Timor-Leste, or recipients of Australian government scholarships, will continue to enjoy prioritized visa processing, reinforcing Australia's commitment to these strategic groups. The government also announced that Ministerial Direction 111, which has helped ensure equitable visa processing, will be replaced by an updated directive aligned with the new national planning level. This is part of a larger plan, pending legislation approval, for the Australian Tertiary Education Commission to oversee managed growth strategies moving forward, adding a layer of stability and clarity for universities. Looking ahead to 2027, the vocational education sector will continue to undergo reforms related to visa processing and integrity measures. Skills and Training Minister Andrew Giles stressed that these measures aim to enable VET providers to plan confidently for 2026, with a focus on sustainable growth aligned with Australia's regional skills needs. Finally, Minister Julian Hill highlighted the resilience of Australia's international education sector, calling it a great Australian success story. He reaffirmed the government's commitment to managing the size and shape of the student market responsibly, especially to attract more students from Southeast Asia and improve accommodation solutions. The overarching message: Australia aims to position itself as a premium education destination known for high-quality experiences, and it appears to be carefully balancing growth with strategic limits to achieve it. What do you think about these measures? Are they the right approach, or do they risk dampening Australia's appeal as an education hub? Australian government lifts cap on international students for 2026. Education news. Australia just opened its doors wider than ever before, and universities are already fighting over who gets the first wave of new arrivals. In a move that will reshape campus life from Sydney to Perth, the Albanese government has quietly decided to tear up the old rulebook on overseas enrollments. Starting in 2026, the nationwide ceiling on international students will rise by a full 9%. That single percentage point translates into thousands of extra seats in lecture halls, thousands more rental contracts, and, depending on whom you ask, either a golden opportunity or a looming headache for local communities. But here's where it gets controversial. Not every university will benefit equally. Canberra is handing out the new places like VIP passes at a concert. And the front row tickets go to institutions that can prove they are building or already operating dedicated student housing. In plain English, if your campus has shiny new dormitories, or at least concrete plans for them, you jump to the head of the queue. If you don't, you may watch rival universities scoop up the extra enrollments while you scramble for leftovers. The Australian National University, ANU, and the University of Canberra, UC, wasted no time reacting. Within hours of the announcement, both institutions issued upbeat statements promising enhanced support services, expanded accommodation options, and a richer multicultural campus experience. Translation: they're polishing their marketing brochures and preparing to welcome a larger, more diverse cohort than ever before. Why the sudden generosity from the federal government? Officials point to two big drivers. First, Australia's skilled labor pipeline is still running dry in sectors like healthcare, engineering, and IT. International graduates who stay on after their degrees help plug those gaps. Second, universities themselves are under financial pressure after pandemic-era border closures slashed their tuition revenue. A 9% bump in enrollments is, for many vice-chancellors, the fiscal lifeline they've been praying for. And this is the part most people miss. The accommodation requirement isn't just bureaucratic red tape. It's a deliberate attempt to diffuse one of the hottest political flashpoints in the country: housing affordability. By tying extra student visas to new beds, the government hopes to prevent a repeat of scenes in Melbourne and Sydney, where record numbers of international students crammed into share houses, pushing rents sky high for everyone else. Critics, however, argue the policy could simply shift the problem. Developers might race to build shoebox apartments near campuses, pricing out low-income locals while padding university balance sheets. So what does this mean for prospective students eyeing Australia in 2026? Expect more scholarship competitions, flashier orientation weeks, and, if universities deliver on their promises, more on-campus housing options that spare you the nightmare of competing with 30 other applicants for a single inner-city room. For domestic students, the changes could bring livelier classrooms and broader networking opportunities, but also larger tutorial sizes and stiffer competition for casual jobs. Bold prediction: some regional universities without immediate access to capital for new dorms may cry foul, claiming the policy favors wealthy metropolitan giants like ANU and UC. Will the government tweak the rules to level the playing field? Or will we see a two-tier system emerge, one where big city campuses thrive and smaller ones struggle? Now it's your turn. Do you think tying extra student visas to accommodation is a clever way to balance growth and housing pressure? Or is it an elitist gatekeeping tactic that rewards the richest universities? Drop your thoughts below. Agree, disagree, or offer a completely different angle. The debate is just getting started, and your voice matters more than ever.